commence with the final session of the conference, which is Owning Your Career, Managing Growth and Relationships in the Digital World. For this conference, we have with us today Dr. Alka Mittal, Director HR ONGC, Mr. Harsh Bhosle, Chief People Officer Naira Energy, Mr. S.K. Bose, Executive Director HR IOCL, and Mr. Rajiv Behel, Director Finance FIPPI. The session will be moderated by Mr. Kaustubh Verma from BCG. Kaustubh, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Kaushiki. Am I audible?
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone, for joining in, and a big thank you to FIPPI for organizing this wonderful webinar. I would like to welcome all our panelists, Mr. Bhosle, Mr. Bose, Mr. Behel, and of course, Dr. Alka Mittal. I don't see Dr. Alka Mittal online, but I hope she will join in due course of time. But let us get started. From yesterday to today, we have had the chance to discuss on multiple topics. Yesterday, we discussed about the advent of digital in oil and gas. We also deep dived on the impact of COVID on the oil and gas industry. Today, we talked about energy transition, the competing fuel types which are impacting our industry. We also spoke about leadership in these times of transition, and that was a very interesting discussion. So we are ending with a session which is about you. While till now we have been looking at external factors, you've been looking at external market conditions. It's important that we look at this from a perspective of the employees which make up the oil and gas industry. And this is a very important topic considering the current times. One, of course, is that there is so much uncertainty around. There is, the impact of COVID, of course, but also, secondly, there is the oil and gas industry going through a phase of rapid transition, both from the perspectives of the drop in oil price, as well as, the changing nature of our energy requirements and the impact that those energy requirements need to create on the overall carbon footprint. With that, let us get started. Also would like to bring to the attention that while this is one topic that we are discussing, this has three subtopics. It is about how do you own your career? How do you, really grow in a time like this? And also, how do you manage relationships? I do understand that Mr. Alka Mittal is yet to join. So let me start off with you, Harsh, and let me get your perspectives in terms of, there is so much change which is happening. There is, as I said, energy transition, there's the impact of oil price. How do you see the future of the oil and gas workforce evolving? Will it continue to remain straight line, or do you think that there is going to be a dramatic change in the kind of profiles that we currently hire and will continue to keep hiring in the oil and gas industry?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Kaustubh. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thanks. So my take on the current situation is that COVID has accelerated the change which we would have otherwise experienced, say, 5 to 10 years from now. So whatever was anticipated that there would be a collapse of the current way of doing things as we move forward with technology, that has come true by default or because of the circumstances. Now, interestingly, all the companies have responded very well, including the so-called old economy, brick and mortar, oldest, one of the oldest economy like oil sector, which has also responded very, very well. And especially when it comes to my company, we could respond like any other IT, ITS type of company. Within a day's time, we switched over from on-site working to remote working. Few months back, we were struggling to give, as a policy change, as a work from home once or twice a month. That we were trying to struggle even in Mumbai office. Whereas now for last 3-4 months, we are working from home. And this has happened not only at in Mumbai, but also in our refinery and also in our upcountry. For audience to know that we are in refining and retail, fuel retail. We are not in upstream. So what has changed is that usage of technology and working from remote is possible. That requires some of the emotional pressure that people go through when they don't meet in person, or they can't supervise in person. But now we need to build a system wherein we will be able to get things done and do things remotely. And I think this is going to stay, except perhaps gradually, where physically you need to be on the premise. Like for example, even in refinery, I can, obviously all the staff functions can definitely be working from home most of the time, 50% of the time. In fact, in our Mumbai office, we have already not renewed one of the offices when the renewal has come. So we have given up that space. So we are seeing even at this juncture, 30-40% people will be working 60% occupancy. But going forward, it would be even go to 50 or 40% occupancy in the office. But what I'm seeing that in a refinery also, or in the field, except people who are field officers or maintenance would probably work. Because if I'm saying that 10 years we have advanced, so the people who could be working on panel office as panel officers, or EPAS, IST, all those functions can also now work from home or partially working from home. Now, what it entails, besides our product is also getting changed. So new technology will come in, technology obsolescence will happen. So all these things has given opportunity for everybody. But when you work from remote places, you are actually getting an opportunity to work globally. Now, if you can work from Bhopal for my Jamnagar refinery, why can't you work from Bhopal for a refinery or any other operations in Latin America or in Vietnam? So that has given a huge possibility for young talent to work across globe, sitting at home. But it also brings competition. So tomorrow, a low-cost employee from Vietnam can also work for me in Jamnagar. Then why I should have my colony and everything in place at Jamnagar when a person can work from Vietnam? What is required is some sort of a skills upgradation, cultural, on those things. And most importantly, I would say, because I'm not a hardcore oil sector man, I'm a manufacturing company person. Now, in oil sector, last 6-7 years, the women in refinery especially are very limited. Now, with this opportunity coming in, women will have huge opportunity to participate in oil and gas sector. So, because now skills are very, very universal, you can work in the shifts in which you have even, young mothers of young babies can work depending upon how they structure their work life. So these are the radical changes that I'm expecting going forward. I would say that COVID has given us opportunity to change. That is a plus side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Harsh, great points there. And, I pick up a few things that you said. And, you spoke about an agile organization, and how oil and gas companies need to continue to be agile in terms of whatever now is the new shape and form of technology. You made a great point around, now things being completely location agnostic. Almost the talent market has now become a global marketplace, because everyone is working remotely. And nothing stops, like you said, a person sitting in Bhopal to work for a refinery in Vietnam. And last but not the least, you talked about a very important subject, which is about the diversity of the workforce. And we will talk about that. But right now, let me get Dr. Alka Mittal into the discussion. Good to have you, Dr. Mittal.
Afternoon.
Great. So, Dr. Mittal, one of the key questions, which I'm sure is there on the minds of everybody who is attending this discussion, is how do you really own your career? At the start of everyone's career, you get this advice for sure. And I'm sure many of the people who are in the panel and many of the people who are attending would have got that advice as well. But what are some of the things that you have seen leaders do that really has helped them own their career? What are some of the things that they have taken forward? What are some of the pitfalls that they have avoided? So it would be great to have your perspectives there.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon to all. And I was just listening to Harsh, and I was agreeing with so many of the points he was making. So I will just like to share that in the youngsters who are here, the participants, they have joined the workforce at a time. They have joined the corporate world at a time when there are 7 different trends which are shaping the workplace or the way the business is conducted across the globe. At the top is globalization, of course. With globalization, the workplace has evolved, and the way, like Harsh was mentioning, we are becoming better connected and more close to all around. And second, that has actually impacted us a lot is the explosion of data, the kind of data we have, the kind of availability of data which is there. It's tremendous. It's awesome at times, but it is overawing as well. Third, which I feel is very, very significant and around which this whole session is revolving is the digital and emerging technologies. The more technologically advanced we are, the more we are able to have a lead. And another very important thing is the way the demographic shift has happened. When we had joined the workforce, the percentage of seniors vis-a-vis the juniors was, we were 10% youngsters and 90% those who were above 40 or so. Here today, in ONGC itself, we have 30% of our workforce comprising of youngsters. And in the next 5 years, it will be more than 60%, which will be comprising of those who are less than 35 or maybe maximum 40 if we recruit less. So this is the way things have changed. And another thing which is impacting us, all of us, is climate change. Of course, we are very, very, all of us are very alive and alert on this issue, and especially more so in our industry. And what really matters to the youngsters, I am also seeing, is a lot that is happening in terms of the jobs getting redefined. Their roles are redefined. They want to have clarity about what is their role likely to be, how they are going to be working where will they be after 10 years. They are a little impatient lot. When we joined, we were not thinking about where will I be after 30 years or 30 years as I am today. But the youngsters, they want to know, okay, what is my career graph going to be like? So that is it. They are a little impatient. So for them, I will just share a few things. I just wanted to share with them that this is the scenario we are evolving. We are in right now, and there is lots of complexity at workplace. Jobs are not that simple. Jobs have become a little, got redefined. An HR person earlier times could be less savvy and get away with it. Similarly, a finance person or a person who was procuring was more into books and written documents. But today's today the way we are working, we need to be digitally comfortable working in our personal domain. We need to be using technology at each and every point when we are taking decisions. And that is what opens up a plethora of opportunities for the youngsters. While they are they are there in the organization in good numbers, there is an opportunity for them to chip in and help the organizations in going digital, in taking on more digital initiatives, upgrading technology at a faster pace. So this is the way the organizations will evolve, and the youngsters, they will not even realize how soon they become a part of an integral part of the organization. They will be the ones who will be sought by the seniors that, okay, let us call one of the youngsters. He'll be able to crack this immediately. This is happening in my organization all the time. We always are, whichever team now is getting built, in that there will be at least 1 or 2 youngsters. It was not like that when we joined. We were told that, okay, you learn the tricks of the trade and then only you will come up the ladder. You don't even dream of being in such committees or teams. So that is another thing. Third thing which I would like to advise the youngsters about is that though this is a very competitive world, and as I said, they are very impatient, they want to beat the others in the race. But in this sector especially, it is teams which succeed and teams which fail. So you have to be a team player. And youngsters, even my own daughters, have been brought up in with such care, and at times they are not that involved in taking care of the feelings or sentiments of others as our generation was. It's not as if I'm being critical. This is the way you have grown. You have grown in nuclear families. You don't know what joint working, joint sharing and caring is all about. So here in these organizations where we talk about multidisciplinary teams and we talk about working together in teams at a rig floor or in the institution, it is team which will succeed and team which will get results. So if you are able to become a part of the team, if you are able to own your team will own you, and they will take pride in promoting you to the best possible manner. You will be seen as a person who's capable of delivering the best of results. And this is what is the trick, for the youngsters to succeed. Besides being very agile and working with speed, being totally digitally updated is something which will have to be there. And last, I would like to share with them that when you are a part of a public sector or part of a company, which is, whether it is ONGC, IOC, BPCL, HPCL, you're part of a new way of life. It's like, being part of ONGC, I don't say it because I have spent 35 plus years with ONGC, but you imbibe all the values. Similar values are there in all the ONGCians, the good practices which are there, a sense of purpose, larger purpose, I would say, for working towards the national energy security. So these things mold you in such a manner that you get transformed as a person, and you become an ONGCian or an IOC person for a lifetime. And that is what makes this industry so exciting, and it makes it so attractive for those who join the industry. That is what I would like to share with you at this stage.
Great, Dr. Mittal, those were some really, really key insights, and thank you so much for sharing them. I would just want to reiterate some of the very critical points that you made. I think the first one which really resonated with me was about how we should start thinking about teams. A team work has immense power, and nowadays, managers, senior leaders look at teamwork and team performance as a critical criteria, when they are evaluating, a person. Similarly, you spoke about how hierarchy sometimes is in your minds. There is nothing that stops somebody from coming up with a suggestion or even teaching their leaders in terms of new things which are happening in the market, new things which are which they know of, and that is critical. And the third thing, which I think is a common thread, is how proud we all feel to be associated with this industry, which has a name only second to probably the Indian Army, in terms of service of the nation. So, I think those are some great points. But, on one of those points, which is around just agile technology and, this new way of working, which Harsh also touched upon, let me bring in Mr. Bose and get a bit of perspective from the IOCL side of things as well, the largest fuel retailer in the country, with very, very diverse, operations, retail outlets in every nook and corner. Mr. Bose, if you can just throw some light on how has your, transition been in this new norm of working? How have you been able to collaborate, build relationships, and deliver business outcomes, in such a challenging atmosphere?
A very good afternoon to all of you. I think I'm audible.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Let me tell you, Indian Oil is one of the largest commercial company in India, and we have been there for last more than 60 years. And if you see, we have been adapting the technology from time to time. if you see why Indian Oil is sustaining for so many decades, and I mean in the leadership positions, because it's adopting technology, because strong people force, and because of its innovative culture, and it has got a strong leadership all along through. Then if I see this leadership has brought in a lot of strong processes and systems into the organization from time to time. So if you see this, we have also backed up by strong R&D, which is very strong in say research and development, and they have got more than 1,000 patents in so many years, and those are patents are for both international and Indian. So let me share some of the patents over there, but I'm not going to share a detail. But Optomux and BS1, BS4, BS6 transition, the R&D has helped a lot. They have INMAX technology, which is not only used in India but abroad also. Having said that, if you see the perspective of the students, if you see, I'm just bringing out the earlier conversation a little bit. If you see the STEM students, I mean the science, technology, engineering, mathematics students, they are not much interested in oil and gas company, because they are looking for challenges and experimentation. So they look for the IT company mostly, Google, Apple, like that. But a section of the Indian students, they are keen in oil and gas company. Why? Because oil and gas company also throws a lot of challenges. Even oil, because of the transition of energy, it makes a lot of avenues for growth area, like say wind power, you have the solar power, you have hydrogen, you have the compressed natural gas. So all these new businesses are coming as a alternative source of energy. So this give a lot of opportunity for the experimentation. So what in oil and gas company, we have a task force of oil and gas company. We brought in some this employee value proposition, wherein we brought in the concept of the voice concept. The oil and gas company shows they have a vision, for V for vision, O for opportunity, it provides opportunity, I for it gives a good incentive, C for career opportunity for the people who join, the students who come out from the college and join, they end up in as becoming chairman or director of the company, not only the same company but other company also. Then they have a lot of experimentation in oil and gas company. So that gives a lot of opportunity for them. That's why still in India, oil and gas company are still one of the best choice for joining. Those who want to join in core company, they prefer oil and gas company. Secondly, if you see the purpose, as Alkam have told, I also echo the same sentiments. These oil and company people who join, say Indian Oil, ONGC or HPCL, they end up in the same company. Why? They have a purpose well defined for them. They are aligned to the national growth, national infrastructure development, national supply and distribution. Say, let me give you some example of pandemic. Before the pandemic starts, we have the digitalization plans in action. I mean, we have a strategic digitalization group who are working for a long time, and they have identified 80 such areas where digitization can help in improvising the processes. So before that, it was there in place. We have a strong IT group. Other than that, so when the transition came from work from office to work from home, uses of technology, it was very smooth, and people are very I mean, they are already used to this change management, and they are used to this SAP system, ERP. So that's why the transition took place very easily. So talking about the field force, as I said, the purpose is an objective of theirs are very clear. They are with the vision of the Indian Oil as well as the country's vision. Then to maintain the supply line 24 hours in all the nooks and corners of the country. So during the pandemic, being in essential service, none of the retail outlet or petrol pump were closed, shut down. None of the refineries were closed down. They were operating. None of the business units were stopped. None of the LPG supply was stopped. So during the lockdown, 26 lakh cylinders were delivered in households of the country. That was done by whom? These delivery men. So the supply side, the back-end supply side, production, as well as maintaining the supply line was a key. Behind that, that is a strong customer relationship management software is working, and we ensure that customer is not suffer. So our point during that COVID, we took care of the customer. We are very empathetic and sympathetic about the customer needs rather than selling. We are focusing on customer care. So because of the strong backup and digitization support, we moved forward. One of the example I will tell you that during that COVID time, we have our IT team had developed a software which is mobile based, the medical teleconsulting. So all the employees, these 33,000 employees, another 30,000 retired employees, they can approach any doctors in the Indian Oil panel. Around there we have 240 doctors, and some of them are roster for 24 hours available, and some of the specialists. So people sitting at home, they can connect any doctors in India and get the medicine advice, teleconsulting, and got the medicine delivered at home. So that much, because, and this software development took place in a collaborative way. There are HR, there are finance, there are IT, there are business people, collaboratively they developed, and this software was developed in a week's time. So this shows that during pandemic, to need the business continuity, you need to work in collaborative way, and teaming is the most important, and empathetic is the most important thing. One more thing I want to emphasize, that communication. Communication is one thing which flows like our blood flows in the artery. It is no restriction, it flows down. And similarly, the leadership role, chairman, directors, the board, they actively involved in communicating with the people, the employees, continuously. Then they assure that we are there for well-being and safety at workplace. That assured them, and that's why continuity, business continuity maintained. Similarly, if you see the communication not only with the employees, communication with the customer, communication with the ex-employees, communication with the, you can say, the communities around us, and taking care of the communities by supplying food packets, by supplying your medical kits, COVID-related kits. So all these things connected the people, engaged the people, and the communication, continuous communication, which is very transparent, and you can say that the communication from time to time, or regular communication at all leadership level to the employees, built a trust among the people, because transparent communication is the key to the success. So that's why I think this is going to be a very good example. During the COVID, we accelerated the digitalization, but if you see the students who are willing to join oil and gas company, the oil and gas company provides better opportunity, let me tell you, because we are in a transition phase and we are ready for that. And we are also reskilling our people. So that's why it's a great opportunity for youngster to join an oil, to make a career in oil and gas. Thank you.
Absolutely. So again, Mr. Bose, I think you are resonating the fact that, the oil and gas industry started preparing much in advance already, to this pandemic. Means things like remote working, performing remotely, being under tough circumstances is not something new for the oil and gas industry. And that is why I think it's a great place for youngsters to make their career, because, the challenges kind of just keep coming day on day. The second very important point that you make is on, communication and managing relationships. And there I would also want to get in Mr. Behel. Mr. Behel, if you can just throw light on one fact, and maybe it goes back to the point that Dr. Mittal was raising on teamwork. Why do you think are relationships important? And sometimes, at least in my own personal experience, relationships outside of work are much more important than the formal, relationships that you have with your boss or with your colleagues. But it is those corridor conversations that you have, the chance to maybe have lunch with someone, or, a cup of tea with someone, which really stand the test of time. So again, two questions for you. One is, why do you think those are important? If you can draw on some of your own experiences, and how do you build relationships? What has been your mantra?
Well, good afternoon to everyone. Let me answer your first question that you asked, how are relationships important? everything starts at human level. Be it you're in family, you're in business, or you're in a workplace, everything starts at human level. You interact with human beings; they are the ones who do the work for you. Like even in this times of when we are living in virtual world, we are still interacting as humans. Of course, there is a whole new technology coming up with robotics and AI and all those stuff is there. But I very firmly believe that probably it's a human thing which will never go and will always stay. So we have to look at that human element. That's very, very important and very important for you. And how you build those relationships, I think equally important. And the point that you mentioned in your opening remark that yes, it is very important that you build relationships not only at the workplace, but outside the workplace, because they sometimes are even more important than you are more successful as maybe as you come back to work. I mean, this is not something very new, and our corporates all over India and maybe elsewhere, maybe have been trying this and doing it very successfully, and both in public sector as well as private sector. This is something that managers do take care of, these aspects of the human behavior. You asked me about mantras. I mean, probably I think it's a bit of a philosophical in this question, but let me answer your question here, and probably that for the benefit of our young leaders who are logged in, from not only from India but across the world. Being the organizer of this event, we know people have logged in from USA, France, and many other foreign countries. So there are three mantras, they were coming to my mind, while I was thinking. The first one, I think, is, and probably it's very, very important that we involve youth at every level of society. And that's very important, whether you're in workplace or outside workplace. The day belongs to, in India, in Indian context, the day belongs to the youth. The future also belongs to the youth. And our young leaders they are the leaders of tomorrow. They must realize that we have to involve them and at every stage of work. The second one, and probably I think as I say, it's a kind of crescendo. Maybe the second one is a little more important, is that we have to be in harmony, I mean, everybody at the workplace or elsewhere, in the society as well as environment and the surroundings that you are faced with. Like in current environments, everybody knows we are passing through a very, very critical, I mean, all of the global world, I mean, talking with this pandemic, COVID-19. So we have to accept that challenge, accept that reality, and take your steps or actions to meet those challenges to the best of your abilities. So, but the point that I made is that you have to be aware of your surroundings, and these are the lessons taught in every management. Maybe whenever you come back to you do MBAs, that you have to scan the environment and adjust your. So this is also, I think, even more important today, that you have to be aware of your environment, the surroundings, and adapt your actions and abilities according to that. And equally important is, in today's changing world, probably our work culture has changed quite dramatically. I mean, nobody would have thought maybe in the context of India, except for maybe the few IT companies or maybe the company from where you come from, where there's work from home culture is there. But it was basically non-existent, maybe at least in the government sector. But the changing reality is that, yes, there is a big change in the work culture here. People are working from home and doing it very effectively and efficiently. And maybe some of people say when I interact, the output has really gone up. I would like to, there's a very interesting point made by Harsh earlier, that we will expand our horizons to the world. Maybe you could have, if you work from maybe XYZ place, and you might as well work from Vietnam or elsewhere. But it's a very good thought. I mean, when we successfully tried also by many companies, I mean, IT companies and the multinationals do that. But maybe in oil and gas, where we're running a refinery, or maybe probably there could be some issues in terms of language, in terms of work culture. ethics, I mean, the code of conduct, I mean, they're quite different, maybe elsewhere in the globe and in maybe the Indian context. Anyway, but that was a very interesting point which Arjun made. So I thought I must respond to it, and probably we'll find some other occasion to maybe discuss more on that. And the third mantra probably is which I would like to share with you is that you have to take care of your people, and they'll take care of you. I mean, you dump them and they'll dump you. I mean, that's something that is also very, very critical, very, very important in today's context, where we think of pay cuts, payoffs. These are not very good signs. I mean, if you think of in terms of growth of the company, growth of the organization, or growth of the nation or the country. This is the critical time where everybody has to contribute to this cause in whatever way best you can. But there are various practices followed by various companies. But the golden rule or golden point or golden mantra, what I would say is that you must take care of your people if you want to be looked after well and you want to grow. These are my thoughts I thought I must share with you.
So, Mr. Behel, I think many of those points are very powerful to the current context of the discussion. But one point which, again, goes back to the question that I was asking was, how do you build relationships? And you very clearly articulated that it's about that human element. Sometimes, a call for 5 minutes with a, subordinate or with your peer is so, enlivening to your overall day. And that those are some of the little tips and tricks that, we all can use to build further relationships. And the second point that you raise is, again, the world has become a marketplace, which Harsh was also alluding to. But, this entire world becoming a marketplace, there is a bit of a dichotomy to it. And the one dichotomy where I wanted to bring in both Dr. Mittal as well as Harsh is that while we think about the world as a marketplace, we have not been able to diversify this sector, from a inclusion perspective. Right now, if I look at statistics, probably oil and gas has very few women leaders, and that is literally 50% of our overall workforce, and hence on that note, I wanted to ask two questions. One, of course, is, how do young women in the industry, build their careers? How do they own their careers? And, who better to answer that than Dr. Mittal? And second, Harsh, I would like to get you on the question, how can, we include more women in the oil and gas sector? I know I'm going off script a little bit, but, it's important for us to, understand your perspectives on both those questions. Over to you, Dr. Mittal. Dr. Mittal, you're on mute. Yeah.
I was so interested in listening to Harsh that I thought I'll listen to him first and then start talking. So my message to the women professionals who are here today and who are part of the oil and gas industry and who are aspiring to be a part of the industry, I would just begin by saying this is not only for the women, for the young guys also who are here today. I would say first and foremost for any of the professionals, the first thing that has to be there is being true to yourself. You have to work for yourself. You have to create your own career, your own path. And for that, you have to actually, with all sincerity, commit yourself to what you have at hand. So that is something which has to come from within, for which you will have to actually make a few sacrifices. You'll have to focus more on your work than things which you would like to do in your leisure time. But that is what is going to keep you focused. As far as the women in the industry is concerned, and why we can't have more women in the industry, let me share with you, Kaustubh and all others, that I rate the caliber of women as very high. I have been there on a few selection panels for during recruitment process. And at times, off record, when we are sitting and chatting, the board members and myself, we say that we are heading towards days when we will have to look at maybe having some reservation for the gentlemen. So the situation is such, girls are very bright, they are doing so good in their respective academic fields. And when they come, they bring so much value in terms of the set of values they believe in, they practice, and the kind of behavioral aspects, which strengths which they have. They are a little extra perseverant, quite committed to whatever they have at hand, and they are out there to prove that they are better than others, which is something which maybe brings out the best in them. So this is something which I feel gives them that edge. Only thing is, how do they continue maintaining this edge, which they join the organization with? When they join the organization, they are at par with others who have appeared for the interview or the selection and got selected. So how do they maintain that edge, and how do they make their careers in this sector? I would share 3 tips, which very consistently I have been sharing earlier also, A, B, and C. First thing, topmost has to be, you have to actually from the very beginning aspire high. When you're joining the workforce, you should be targeting the top leadership positions and preparing yourself for that. This will hold true for both genders, I would say. But the girls have to actually start aspiring higher, because at times girls feel they have studied well, they've joined a very good company, now they can take care of other aspects, and they lose that drive at times. I still remember when I was at the age of 23, I was posted at Baroda. There was a person who once made a comment, Alka is very ambitious. And I took it as a way of criticism, I thought that, okay, is there something wrong with me? Why am I so ambitious? But let me tell you, being ambitious is what is going to get you there. So if you're focused on your career, no one should come in the way of that when it comes to your work. Or definitely we all are brought up in a manner that we'll balance our work life and the home. But still, focus on your career is something which has to be maintained right from the beginning. That is one thing. Aspire high, prepare yourself for the top position. Secondly, when you are there, you have to be great at your work. That is the only way you can commit yourself to your career. So for that, you have to be consistently updating yourself, upgrading yourself, learning, practicing, doing applying what you have learned, and not holding back when you get an opportunity to try your hand at something new. At times, change is something which makes all the difference to a person. Moving from one location to another, you will be able to find a way out. Only thing is, you have to make that effort. And once you do that, you are definitely going to be the best in your domain. And that is what is required. If you are not the best, you will not be there at the top. That is the only way you can reach the top. You have to work on yourself constantly. And while you are doing all this, you have to be, the C I am coming to, you have to be very, very confident. And that confidence is what is going to help you in tiding over tough times. During your careers, there'll be ups and downs. So once you are confident and you are committed, there's nothing that will stop you. Only thing that comes in the way is a little bit of lack of confidence, which should not happen. And for this, you will have to build on your strengths and also develop yourself in areas which you feel you are lagging a little behind. And this happens over time. Only thing is, you have to identify these areas and work on yourself. That is it. I am sure the girls are going to, the future is going to be as much for the girls as for the guys. The youngsters are coming up so well. So I'm sure they'll be doing extra good in times to come. So all the best to the girls.
So Dr. Mittal, first of all, very heartening to hear that, and specifically coming from someone like you who's a role model within the industry. And, the good part is that whether you talk about aspiring high, whether you talk about being the best at your work, whether you talk about being confident, I think that is gender agnostic. Everyone needs to have a viewpoint like that. And those are some great learnings. Let me go over to you, Harsh, and get a bit of a different perspective on this question, and just try to understand how, as an industry, can we also promote diversity? As I said, statistics are not very favorable. There is a lot of potential. What can we do?
Yeah, these are my personal opinions, so it should be taken in that fashion. Alkaji, thank you very much for the compliments and hearty congratulations, and for reaching at the top. And unfortunately, out of 5, only 1 woman. So that itself indicates, what is the gender ratio going in the industry. So obviously there are some operational issues, and we need to address those first. And then there are some systemic issues. Now, operational issues is that if we have the opportunity to hire women in those roles, as an industry, we should take a vow that we should have, we must fill those vacancies. Definitely ones which come at the top are all these staff functions, whether in the refineries or in the offices. So be it finance, legal, HR. In my department particularly, I have an inverse diversity issue. I have more women than men. So at times, on a lighter way, if I have to go for a drink in the evening, I have to really struggle as to whom should I invite. So, so that is the one challenge. So we operationally, this is easy picking. So the roles where we can hire women should be hired, or at least present 2 women and 1 man for the role when the final selection happens. So that should be the operational way of doing this. Systemic issue is, we are in the chemical industry, and our heart is in refinery and or in the upstream. Now, because of the sunrise and sunset clause in giving opportunity for women to work in refineries, because of this clause, we are not able to hire women in the operations where there has to be 3rd shift, or asking only women to work in 1st shift and compelling the men to work in 2nd and 3rd shift is going to be not correct way of doing things. So one way of doing is like ITS have always shown light for the new ways of doing things. Whether we can also have a law change where this sunrise to sunset, only during that time women can be hired in factories, should be changed with proper, as a legislation we should change, because right now there is a provision that you can go to the government and get the exemption. But obviously it takes time, and so the moment women start coming in the core area of refining, that is in actually refining operations and field and panel officers and through the shift, obviously they will start rising at the technical field. So, and that is how that will be the long-term solution to ensure that women come on top. So these are 2 my personal suggestions, obviously.
Fantastic suggestions, Harsh. And I think this requires a longer decision for, all the industry leaders to kind of sit together and iterate some of those points, and even bring up some of their points, and I'm sure we can move the needle quite extensively. One of the themes, again, which is emerging is this habit of learning continuously. Whether it is just being good at your job, I think nobody is born as the perfect professional. I think they learn on their job, or it is about learning new ways of working. Whether it is digital technologies, I'm sure when many of you all started your career, there was, not the importance to technologies and, working on a computer or a laptop, but that changed and all of us adapted, right? So let me get Mr. Bose in here and just try and understand his perspectives on how can one really learn continuously? What is it that one should do? Should one read more? Should one take some time out during an year and, do trainings? Should one have mentorship? What has been some of the things that you have observed young people do successfully in their careers to learn continuously?
Yeah, thank you. I say we believe that whether you are 20 or 80, the day you stop learning, you're old. So that's why continuous learning and lifelong learning is very important. All of the points you told is all right. Let me tell you my journey with Indian Oil, and I see as Indian Oil is a learning organization. So we invest a lot in learning and growth. So Indian Oil, if you see, it is it's focused on leadership development at all levels. So here, let me tell you, during before pandemic, we have created some modules, learning modules, e-learning modules we call it. In a Swadhyay means self-learning, and in that module is targeted in cloud-based learning system from anywhere, any platform, any tools. I mean, it can be iPad, desktop, or your laptop. Anywhere in the world you can learn. These modules were developed by our own internal subject matter expert. There are 300 subject matter experts at various levels from 70 functions. They have created 600 modules. So before the lockdown started on 24th March, we have around 10,000 modules completed. And these modules were there in the cloud, and as the days go by, they created more modules. And our employees suddenly found that there is an opportunity for learning. And they started learning from home. Work from home was there in the month of April. And you'll be surprised to know that 6 lakhs modules they have completed. 8,500 employees, including staff members, they have completed 6 lakhs module in this just 3 months time. And this learning is all business area as well as HR and finance in all our international marketing. A person working in refinery can know the marketing operations and how to refuel aircraft. All these things you can know through these tools. This gave a teaming collaboration opportunity for us. So what we did through virtual platform, they come together and created analysis of the business functions and how to bring in efficiency in the system because of the learning. Because if you work in refinery, you may not know about the marketing operation or selling or marketing. So that's why, because of this learning, through this e-learning platform, they knew everything. I'll just give an example. While supplying the LPG, our LPG field force, they're continuously working throughout day and night. To support them, to take care of the charge, a few people from refinery, they went to relieve them, these marketing people. Because of the learning from this e-learning platform, they easily picked up and they supported the marketing counterpart and relieved them, and they continuously started working so that these people get relieved and take some rest. So because this collaboration took place, because it's a learning and agility. Secondly, if you see, Indian Oil has focused the learning and growth and leadership at all levels. There are certain levels of leadership programs, long duration programs, 1 month, 140 days, at mid-level, senior level, and at very high level. So what happened, these leadership programs helps them to not only read the theories and practices, but also do action learning projects. And they brought in the issues the organization confronting at different business unit and sort out this through teaming and collaboration through this in this leadership project. I mean, during this advanced management programs or leadership programs. So if I see, Indian Oil focuses not only on workforce, talent acquisition, but also leadership pipeline, making the leadership pipeline. Today, we are very happy that all the critical roles were defined, at least 3 levels below board positions, and we know how to grow the people and groom them by creating their individual development plan and bringing in intervention, as you say, mentoring, coaching, reading, case studies like that. It is true that when you grow up in an organization and take a leadership position in a business, head of a business unit, or you begin to go to the very senior level, you need to move around the different geography. You need to learn the culture. You need to experience the people there in different part of and experience the business. So when they move around, they learn. But in some cases, if they could not move certain businesses, they learn through the case studies. They learn through the projects. So that's how they move. And today we are happy that for each leadership position, we have at least 4 or 5 people are there to back up them. And Indian Oil has consistently produce their homegrown leaders to all the board positions, chairman positions, not only in Indian Oil, but to other industries also contributed in both in private and public arena.
Great to hear that, Mr. Bose. And, you know, again, the first statement that you made was so impactful that you only get old when you actually stop learning. And that is, again, something that all our audience members can take away. Second, you also talked about the power of digital, you know, and how that can be exploited to create, you know, at-scale learning platforms. I know we are very, very short on time. Let me just do a quick roundup, you know, and put all the esteemed panelists on the spot. If you had to tell one thing to somebody who is joining the oil and gas industry from campus tomorrow, you know, what would your advice be? Let me start off with Mr. Bahel, then go to Dr. Mittal, then Harsh, and then come back to Dr. Bose. Over to you, Dr. Bahel.
Well, just one liner. I would say
Yes.
that the future is now and future is yours. It'll be for you forever.
Wonderful.
In our gas space, yeah.
Wonderful. Dr. Mittal,
I would say three things. One is welcome to an opportunity for being in a place where you will be coming across lots of adventure, lots of action, and lots of sense of fulfillment by way of achievement. And that is what will make you feel satisfied at every point in your career.
wonderful.
Yeah, if I have to say, you know, constant upskilling and diversifying your skills, because this industry is going to go through a huge transformation. Some of the products will remain or not, whether there will be a strong substitute. So this is an exciting journey. It is an energy sector, no longer an oil and gas sector. So come and join this journey of, you know, transforming the whole industry. It's an exciting journey. But be ready for change at a very, very frequent intervals.
Mr. Bose?
Yeah, my take would be, if you want to, I welcome all of you to join oil and gas company, because this gives a lot of opportunity for you to grow. Secondly, if you you want to build the nation, create infrastructure for the country, you know, in the field of energy, and the clarion call given by our Honorable Prime Minister to Atmanirbhar Bharat. If you want to connect yourself to the nation building, then you should join oil company, oil and gas company, and it will prove that you will feel this satisfaction and contentment. You have done something for the country and build infrastructure for the society and the future communities. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. I think we are at the top of the hour, and this has been a very, very engaging discussion. We have spoken about how we can manage growth in careers, how we can build relationships, how we can be agile. So, you know, once again, thank you to FIPPI for organizing this wonderful panel discussion, and thank you for all our panelists for their words of wisdom, which I'm sure will stay with our audience for many, many more months and years to come. Thank you, everyone.